The Emperor of Mankind, once a proud man, now a shell, sitting upon the golden throne, rotting away. I'm Mortal Wound, and let's dive into the origin of the Emperor. The Emperor wasn't always the god we know him as. In fact, before he wasn't even the Emperor. He used to be a group of shamans in the Neolithic period. These shamans were humanity's first ever psychers. The shamans had the ability to come back from the dead. But as time passed, humanity grew and progressed, gradually past the Stone Ages. But one thing kept growing along with humanity, the Immaterium. It became increasingly disturbed by humanity's collective psyche, and the shamans eventually lost their ability to return from the dead. Usually when a shaman did die, they would be able to form their body back inside the Immaterium. But now, when they tried to do this, the new entities and demons would feast upon their souls, thus killing them. The remaining shamans devised a plan, the ultimate plan in fact. They devised a way that would prevent any more horrific deaths in the Immaterium. The shamans decided that the only way to prevent this fate was to become one. They began the ritual, taking poison one by one. Their souls flowed into the Immaterium, overwhelming the demons, cleansing them with a purifying flame. A flame that became one soul out of the many sacrifices. This one soul, forged out of the Immaterium, was who we all know as the Emperor of Mankind. A year later, the child who would become the Emperor was born in a Neolithic settlement of Anatolian herders and farmers. When he was born, his psychic power was so great that its energies altered his genome and physiology in the womb and rendered him immortal, so he would no longer need to reincarnate and could not be assaulted by the demonic creatures of the Immaterium upon his death. As he grew older, his potent psychic powers began to manifest. For 38,000 Terran years, he wandered over the earth, and throughout human history, he traveled among the different peoples of mankind. While he had first been only an observer of mankind's triumphs and follies, he soon began to help where he could, using his ancient wisdom to spread efficient government, crop management, animal husbandry, technology, and peace. He used his influence very carefully, at first adopting only the guise of a normal man and without revealing his true nature. As the millennia passed, the man who would become the Emperor watched the human species develop. He traveled the entire globe, watching and helping, sometimes adopting the persona of a great leader or advisor. In fact, it's been theorized that the Emperor could have been Alexander the Great. But also, in times of trouble, he would become a crusader, a religious leader, or even a messiah. At other times, he remained a backstage contributor to events, an advisor to kings, a court magician, a pioneering scientist. Many of the guises he adopted were humble. Others became monumental figures of world history or religion. At times of crisis, he would be there, steering humanity along a narrow path to survival that only he could see. As humanity prospered and advanced over the millennia, the warp became increasingly disturbed. The Emperor became aware of how the extreme sides of human character were feeding the chaos power. Seeds of wisdom often failed to flourish or grew into uncontrollable monstrosities, leading to eras of persecution and war. The Chaos God sensed the presence of the Emperor, even before they became fully conscious in the Immaterium. The ruinous powers recognized the man who would become the Emperor as their greatest enemy. For thousands of standard years before becoming the Emperor, he guided and watched humanity develop over the course of its history, assuming the guise of a large number of historical characters.
He was aware that the darker extremes of human nature, like war, greed, pleasure, and plague, were feeding the growth of the Chaos Gods in the warp, and so he sought to promote peace and harmony on old Earth, and thereby curb the growth of the ruinous power's strength. For thousands and thousands of years, the Emperor would stay dormant, slowly making the ultimate plan to combat the likes of Chaos. The man who would later become known as the Emperor of Mankind first appeared in Imperial records as just one of the many warlords struggling for control of Terra during the later part of the Age of Strife, in the early 29th millennium. The man who would become the Emperor even met his closest friend, by the name of Malcador the Sigillite, during this time. And this is when the Emperor would launch his plan into fruition. A plan so great that humanity would be the single ruling power in the universe. But first, he had to unify all humans under one banner. He would launch a series of military campaigns against the techno-barbarians. This event would go on to be known as the Unification Wars.
This is where I'll stop for now. The Emperor's journey does continue in the Unification Wars, but only 1.5% of you are subscribed. That means the other 98.5% of you aren't subscribed. You should subscribe because you'll always be able to catch up on my latest content. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed. Mortal Wound, out.